So what we're looking at right now is a excerpt from the Kindle version of Modern Wargaming Pioneers, which has been compiled by the editor John Curry of the History of Wargaming project. This blurb right now with the highlights from my Kindle, I'll draw your attention to the right, where he's talking about the development of Dungeons and Dragons. And this continues on to the next page. So Gary Gygax has actually said that full credit is hereby given to Tony Bath and suggested consulting Bath's work for any areas not covered in his chainmail rules. The problem is that Tony Bath published multiple rule sets, one of which was published in 1962 in Don Featherstone's original book on wargaming. There was another set in 1966, which were published in various forms, which I will endeavor to show you one of the forms that came into my hands from delving around the internet. But basically, it was produced for the Wargamer newsletter folks, and it had like 6 pages of text, very dense, that I have now expanded out because I want you to actually play this, right? So if we're going to understand chainmail and where it came from, not only do we need to understand like Wessencraft, which the rules for Mercenaries came from Charles Wessencraft, as well as the weather table, the weather gauge that came into chainmail. Then if you go back and look at WRG versions 1, versions 2, and the medieval supplement from February 1970, which I compiled all that stuff into Men in Metal, which I've published on Drive-Thru RPG, which was an attempt to both de-barkerize the language, to make it less impenetrable, and also to make it more playable. I've recently done a playthrough of Men in Metal, which was, again, somewhat tedious. I came up with a couple minor refinements to the rule set, but there is no getting around some of the structural problems with the WRG rule sets. Even you have to strip it down considerably, but even then, some of the conventions that it uses for movement just result in a very slow, drawn-out battle that does not give you a lot of control, especially once reaction tests start to occur. It becomes very difficult to untangle the interactions of the rules. I considered that to be a failing of the system, not my attempt at editing and streamlining it. Next, but to circle back to the original topic, right? Tony Bath wrote these rules in 1966, very tightly compacted together. I have expanded them out to the best of my ability. But Tony Bath also had rules from the 1950s, rules in 1978, Pelletist and Pila or Pila. I think it's Pila. My Latin is a bit lacking there. Anyway, he had multiple rule sets. So when Gary Gygax says, hey, look to Tony Bath for guidance, well, Tony Bath created the Society of Ancients newsletter. Tony Bath had numerous, articles and interactions with people in the British wargaming scene, as well as these published rule sets. So because there's so much material, I just chose to pick one. And it seemed like the simplest would be these 6-page rules. But once you start to read them, I had to expand it out. I simply had to rewrite them because there is so much material there. Enough on the preliminaries. So what you're going to see is a playthrough of a battle that me and some others online were doing as a play-by-post using chainmail rules, using the exact same scenario. I've added 2 pieces of terrain just to keep it interesting. I randomized where in the middle of the board the terrain would end up. I kept the same deployments for what I'm calling the English side and the French side. What these Tony Bath rules from 1966 make clear, once you untangle them, is that the English longbowman gets a bit of a buff and turns out to be a bit over the top. There were some. Anyway, we'll see how the game plays out. But I'm already impressed with Rule 1, with how quickly the forces get into contact and get down to the action. So let's go to the playthrough. So quick orientation to the battlefield. We are looking at things from the English perspective. As I said, I randomized 2 pieces of terrain, broken terrain, and then a farm field with, and again, I placed 2 what I'm going to call stone walls, even though they are wooden walls. I'm going to call them stone. I randomized which corner they would intersect at. But the English, let's go through the order of battle here. So here are the English longbowmen that I talked about. It'll be interesting to see what happens. There are 3 blocks of skirmishers of 12 blocks representing 20 men. Down here, this is actually, yeah, I need to expand that out. I think there's 1 more block that's missing here. But this should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, that's what it is. 8. So 8 by 3. I think that's supposed to be 24 heavy horse. I got to go correct that. This is the footmen, armored footmen in the middle. Fairly substantial block of 10 across and 4 down. That's 40 of them. Also, we have heavy foot here. Another block of heavy horse on the right. And then I'm going to make these peasant archers. So these are going to be irregular peasant archers with like self bow, short bow kind of thing. So move 1 has already been done, so skirmishers are out front. Let's come around here. Like it says, the playing cards indicate what turn we're on. Looking at the field from the referee's perspective, here's what it looked like at the end of turn 1. Let's come around here to the French. So over here on the extreme left, we have this block of armored foot. Then we have some longbowmen, just regular longbowmen. Then we have their heavy foot, which are armed with pole arms. Same thing, the armored foot down there are armed with pole arms. Doesn't matter in Tony Bass rules, it did in the chainmail battle. Our heavy horse, again, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times 3, that's 18. And then finally, medium horse up front. And on the right side, we've got heavy crossbowmen, which I'm gonna indicate as heavy. So green, by the way, is light troops. Red are the troops with the most punch, and then yellow are troops kind of in the middle. So heavy foot and medium horse are yellow. Skirmishers, light troops, archers, almost all universally green, and then heavy horse and armored foot, you know, mounted and dismounted knights is how Tony Bath refers to those. Those are in red. Yeah. What I forgot to mention, the heroes. So in the chainmail play-by-post that we're doing, we each side got 2 heroes and 1 superhero. In this case, the superhero is with the French heavy foot in the middle, and the 2 heroes are with the crossbowmen and the heavy horse. There were reasons for that in chainmail, but I believe in maintaining, so I believe in chaos, right? I like the fact that I placed this terrain. The terrain would be very advantageous to crossbowmen under Tony Bass rules, but yet it's way over here where they can't necessarily get to it. Broken ground, you know, we've got a canal that just happened to line up by random chance with the 2 horse elements of the French. Love playing chaos, so that presents problems for me as the English player. Also love actually writing out the orders. That's one thing that WRG I think gets right. So I wrote out the orders for turn 1, and then after I got done writing both of them, I maintained the discipline of writing them within 10 minutes. So pardon the chicken scratch, but then I put on my referee hat when interpreting the orders, and I find that even just doing that exercise, right? Trying to write these out under a time-strained condition of 10 minutes each. And then by the time I get around to the referee and I start to interpret the French movement, I have already forgotten kind of what I've written. And then I'm looking at it with fresh eyes and I'm like, how would the unit commander actually interpret that? And sometimes it leads to surprising results. It led to some stalled deployments on the English side, and you know, some wonkiness over here on the French side as well. So I strongly believe that if you're doing solo play, write out the orders and then interpret the orders later, and it'll introduce even more chaos, which I like that because it helps me. It makes it more challenging for a solo player, right? Now it's not just my master plans in my head being perfectly executed. Now I have introduced friction into the process, and that creates more opportunities for better generalship to rescue yourself from bad situations that your well-meaning subordinates might have gotten you into. Bowmen for the English. English are on the left side of your screen. French are on the right side of your screen. Card in the middle denotes that we're on turn 2. Coffee on the right indicates it's in the afternoon and I need more to drink. Voila. All right. Our plan today is Tony Bass Rules for Medieval Wargames from circa 1966 that I found online. So movement is simultaneous. I have previously issued orders, and it's good because it's been several hours since I did these orders. So we'll start with the English side. So the English longbowmen stay within 20 inches of the left skirmishers. Do not stray east or advance beyond the broken ground. So English longbowmen, they're not supposed to stray east. They're supposed to stay within 20 inches of the skirmishers, which we're on centimeter scale, so they're at 20 exactly right there. And they are not to advance into the broken ground here. That's fine, so they will stand fast. All skirmishers for the English are to stay together in their formation, right? And they are to block any approaching medium horse, those guys in yellow. So from advancing, that's their top priority. And then delay or drive off enemy skirmishers, right, which appear to be approaching. Stay behind the center line of the battlefield. This table is about 21.5 inches to the center line, so you know I can eyeball it and say this is probably right about the center. And again, from the ground, they would look at the battlefield and go, yeah, probably not supposed to get that far forward. All right, heavy foot in the center here for the English. Armored foot and heavy foot are to await instructions / hold ground. We've got the army commander is with the armored foot, so he can change these orders anytime he likes. He's got direct command of this unit. Kind of incorporated some of the WRG concepts in writing down orders and stuff, but it's going to be mostly BAF for the resolution here. Heavy horse left is told to engage the enemy heavy horses as top priority, so that would be red is heavy horse. Heavy horse versus heavy horse. From where he sits, he can just barely see them off in the distance behind these skirmishers and the medium horse approaching. So his priority is to attack the heavy horse or medium horse in open ground. So he's not supposed to stray into this farmland or into the walls or over here in the broken ground. He's going to engage them somewhere in here, most likely, because it looks like they're going to come down this bowling alley. All right, armored foot and heavy foot we talked about. Irregulars. So the irregulars on the right here are to stay on the right flank of the heavy horse and drive off any enemy skirmishers. So what is the heavy horse right supposed to do? They have been ordered to engage enemy heavy horse only on open ground. And from where they sit, if I get down here behind the man, maybe he sees some horse like off in the distance, but from this angle, that medium horse is really, he can't see. He can't see over the wall of the skirmishers and the heavy horse. There's just too much going on right now. So he's standing fast, and consequently these irregulars are standing fast too. So really there is no more movement taking place on the English side. This could be bad generalship on my part. So now I put on my French chapeau and take command of the French side. So, heavy crossbows. I'm calling these heavies. I'm going to treat them as heavy troops because that's what I did in the Chainmail play-by post that I've got going on with Purple Druid and some others. We have a noble in command of these guys. Their instructions: advance near the edge of the broken ground and then wheel obliquely left to cover the opening approach between the broken ground and the farmland. shoot nearest enemy. So there's the farmland, there's the broken ground. Approach near the broken ground, then oblique left. So this is our first move, really. And again, we're treating these guys as heavy. Using Bath's table, that means they can advance 9 on open ground. We're using a centimeter scale, so 9 inches is actually 9 centimeters, which works out pretty well for this table size. So they're going to go their full movement, and then nothing else follows. Get that out of the way. Next, skirmishers. Advance on line, east to west, across the middle of the farmland. Do not advance into the broken ground on the right. There were no other orders for the skirmishers, right? So the assumption is they're going to skirmish, which is they're going to shoot their bows when the enemy skirmishers are in range. The range for the bow, according to Tony Bath, long range for a short bow is 15 inches. Do we have any shots yet? Nope, not yet. So those guys standing their ground, and these guys pretty much completing their move into the farmland is what's going to happen here. Actually caused this wall to delay these guys from getting to the, oh, it looks like the middle of the farm field is a little bit further forward. So they're going to inch forward. All these units are going to creep up just a skosh, which is well within the light foot movement. And again, these guys, by the time they're dressing their line, they're kind of drifting off down here toward the north. They're drifting off kind of down toward the southeast. Not by intention, just because, you know, that's how crap goes in the real world. All right, heavy foot center unit are to, heavy foot are to center their unit on the middle of the wall directly to their front and use it for cover. Heavy foot, again, advances at 9. So we're going to take these guys up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. By the way, whoever posted this desire to use vinyl as like the movement tray, this stuff was 67 cents per foot. The minimum they could cut is a 1 foot wide strip, 12 foot long, which the kids there actually cut me 15 inches, which gave me more space. I got plenty for these movement trays. I've got these other little movement trays, so to speak. I only used up like 3 or 4 square feet of what I got. And I got like 9 more of those square feet out there, so I've got plenty to make any size movement tray. Haven't flocked it or anything else to make it look nice, but as far as like moving these blocks around, it was a cheap solution. It's pretty good, even if I need to pick these up, even though this is kind of flexible. It's still okie dokie. I hope I put those guys back in the right place. Anyway, vinyl for movement trays. Cheapo option for the cheapo wargamer like me. All right, next up. So these guys are moving to center themselves on the wall. Longbows, which are these guys. These are regular longbows, whereas those are English longbows. Move into contact with left flank of heavy foot and stay on the left. Shoot at targets of opportunity. Those are heavy horse, it's top priority, then skirmishers, then other footmen. So longbowmen are going to advance and kind of continue to drift over here toward the left side of the heavy foot. They have a movement rate of 15 in open ground, so they can easily accomplish this. As a matter of fact, that's going to take them up even with the front edge, just moving them 9. So the interesting thing about this set of rules, and we're going to dress this up a little bit here, there'll still be a little bit of a gap between the units, and that's kind of realistic. So the interesting thing about these rules is that as you move a third of your movement, you lose a shot. Bowmen in these Tony Bath rules can take 3 shots. So you move 1/3 of your movement, you lose 1 shot, and you're down to 2. Move 2/3 of your movement, you're down to 1 shot. And then it doesn't remove the other shot if you move your full movement, but I think it doesn't explicitly state that, but I think that's the intent of Mr. Bath. So in this case, those guys move 9, which is more than 1/3, but less than 2/3. So they've lost 1 shot for sure. They can shoot twice. Range on bowmen. Long range for bowmen is 24. Do we have any shots here? And the answer is no. 24 takes us to about this line here. So if those skirmishers were to come into this range, these guys would be protected. And when they move up here to this wall, they're probably going to be covering out to here. So pretty good arc of fire for those bowmen. 2 ranks may fire under this rule set. There are going to be 12 figures firing then when this happens, which each of those units is 12. We'll see how that goes. 2 shots, 3 shots if they're stationary too. It was pretty devastating just for regular longbowmen, let alone the extra bonuses the English longbowmen get. All right, I'm going on very long-windedly. Armored foot on the right are to wheel. Armored foot down here. They're to wheel and advance directly east 15 inches. So they started their wheel last turn. Armored foot in these rule sets, they're dismounted knights, they get 6 inches of movement. So we're going to take the pivot point as the innermost, frontmost man. I made that stuff up just based on prior experience. And we're going to wheel another 6, so something like this. So this is turn 2 of this wheel maneuver, which should be confusing the heck out of the English, because they're going, what the heck is going on? Where is he going to go? Should give them something to think about. They have no idea that my intent is to bring these guys in. Okay, and forget you saw that or heard that, so that you know, it's a surprise to you in 2 or 3 turns when they finally figure this out. Medium horse, they are to post their left front man at the southeast corner of the field, and they're to post themselves in open ground. Charge if charged. So there's some minor jockeying here as they, haha, no pun intended, as they kind of shuffle themselves up to be on this post, lined up down the bowling alley. Okay, heavy horse, follow medium horse. So heavy horse, there is no distinction in this rules between a charge movement rate and a non-charge movement rate. So heavy horse gets to move 12. These guys are easily going to be able to post themselves behind there. I put blue tape on my architect's ruler that I got back when I was still an engineering student. Didn't graduate in engineering, by the way. Graduated with a degree in military and diplomatic history. Here we go. So 12 would take them up here so they can easily, you know, butt themselves up directly behind. And we'll just pretend that they're directly behind. There's a little gap, which is fine. Again. So they have followed their orders to a T. And that is the end of movement number 2. I'm going to turn off the video and flip the card, and we'll see what happens. I think we're going to issue new orders for round 3. What I'm doing for orders phase is I give myself 10 minutes to write orders for both sides, and then I put on my umpire chapeau, and then, or hat if you're English, and think about things as I've actually written them, which sometimes leads to some interesting additional friction.